everybody. It is Thursday, January 5th, 2017. Welcome to the King's Report, broadcasting live from the Chenyilgung Palace atop the beautiful Pocono Mountains, overlooking the great states of Pennsylvania first, New York, and New Jersey. So many things to cover today. But before we get there, do we have our weather report real quick, Tim?
Sure. It's 22 degrees, 25 degrees outside now, but we're expecting to go down to 22 before the sun rises. And it's a clear, partly cloudy later on. It'll get up to 30 degrees, maybe some snow tonight, an inch or two.
Okay, very nice, very nice. Thank you. So we're in our 20s now. Possibly some snow. Everybody dressed nice and warm. And let's get to our word, which gives us life. And here we are today in John chapter 6 and verse 41. The Jews then complained about him because he said, I am the bread which came down from heaven. And they said, It is not this Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How is it then, he says, I have come down from heaven? Jesus therefore answered and said to them, Do not murmur amongst yourselves. No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up at the last day. It is written in the prophets, and they shall all be taught by God. Therefore everyone who has heard and learned from the Father comes to me. Not that anyone has seen the Father, except he who is from God. He has seen the Father. Most assuredly I say to you, he who believes in me has everlasting life. I am the bread of life. Your fathers ate the manna in the wilderness and are dead. This is the bread which comes down from heaven, that one may eat of it and not die. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. And the bread that I shall give is my flesh, which I shall give for the life of the world. Amen. Here we see Christ speaking to those who are doubting him. And he says, No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him. Now, folks, many times we think, and it's, I think I brought this up a couple of days ago. It is common in our modern world to say, all paths lead up the same mountain, all paths lead to truth, all paths are different paths to God, and everybody needs to find their path to God. And I heard this on the radio the other day. I brought it up, I think, a couple of days ago. And the announcer took a very interesting angle. He said, maybe it's not about our path at all. Maybe it's not about the path we choose up that mountain. Maybe it's about God's plan. Maybe it's about God's rescue plan. Maybe it's not about all the different types of paths that we claim this or that path will lead us to God. Maybe that's an egocentric perspective. And maybe we need to have a God-centered perspective and say, wait a minute, what about God's plan in all of this? Jesus says, no one, he said, he didn't say one or two. He said, no one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I'll raise him up on the last day. Without exclusion, no one can come to the Father. No one can come to Jesus unless the Father draws him. In the end, it is about God. In the end, it is about God and his purposes. In the end, it is about God and his desires. In the end, it is about God and his will and his plan, his rescue, his salvation, the life that he brings. Jesus said he's the bread of life. In the end, it's not about us. And it is the arrogance of people, of human beings, to want it always to be about us. We live in this vast, multi-dimensional, deep space floating on a little microscopic asteroid called Earth, in context. And we want to make it all about us. But in the end, it's not about us. In the end, we have to transcend our ego. And when we fight for goodness and can discern between good and evil, we must make sure that we do not become evil. Good is now overcoming evil. The micro and the macro. Goodness is starting to rise. Goodness is starting to take the upper hand. Goodness is starting to defeat that which is not good. The political Satanists, the communists, the socialists are being defeated on the macrocosmic level. The family fraud is being defeated on the microcosmic level. But we have to understand that the victory that was gained was not because of anything else. The victory that we gained was because we had the moral high ground. The victory that was gained was because we stood in the right. We stood and transcended our egos. We stood and transcended ourselves when it was hard to do so, and stood up for the truth when we were mocked and bullied and scorned and hated. We had moral high ground. We stood on the truth. We stood on righteousness. Not because we were righteous, because we were willing to be persecuted for a higher purpose. We were willing to be persecuted for something greater than myself, my ego, and my calling. We're willing to be persecuted for honor, to not sell out on our Father and his gifts, to not sell out on our republic, to not sell out on the great gifts of freedom and responsibility God has bestowed upon us. We took hold and dominion of the neck of Satan because we stood in righteousness and had the moral high ground. Now, as we become victorious and as we become successful and as we become and crush the enemy, will we remain in the moral high ground? Will we start making it about us? Will we start talking about ourselves? The key is here. For Jesus said, "No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him." And if our purpose is to draw people away from political Satanism and to God, in the end, we must not fool ourselves. It is not us who does it. We are merely instruments of his peace. It is God who is orchestrating the great drawing of people. It is God who is orchestrating the softening of the hearts of the hardened. It is God who is orchestrating the great exodus from evil, the great exodus from Egypt, the great exodus from tyranny, the great exodus from communism and global communism, and is leading people back to him. We are part of that great story. No doubt God uses us, but let us make it never about ourselves, for in the end, it is the Father who draws us to the Son, who gives us life everlasting, who is the bread of life, who gives us sustenance, and who gives us our true identity. Stay with us. We'll be right back.